At Christmas, I brought gifts for the whole family. I didn't receive anything. My aunt looked at hers and said, "You always try too hard, fool." Laughter. I just nodded, collected every gift back into my bag, and said, "Weird how I'm the only one who showed up with anything." 30 minutes later, everyone was begging me to stay. I didn't even turn around. I walked into my parents' house with a giant red bag full of gifts, like some kind of low-budget Santa who couldn't take a hint. Real gifts, not just socks or cheap candles. I'd been saving since October. I picked each one with care, yes, care, that embarrassing word. For Kyle, a signed baseball he once mentioned during a 4th of July barbecue. For my sister, a limited edition hoodie from some band she obsessively posted about. Even Jake got something. I don't even like Jake. I just thought, maybe this year I'd stop being the guy on the outside looking in. I wrote a note for every gift. Handwritten. Not printed. Not copied. Actual thoughts. Actual effort. Who does that? Apparently me. I should have known by the way my dad answered the door. Like I'd arrived with a clipboard asking for donations. Inside, the TV was blasting some dumb prank video, the room smelled like reheated ham, and everyone was already half a drink past pretending to care. No one noticed the bag. I had to literally start calling out names and handing them their gifts. My mom gave me a weird look, my sister rolled her eyes. Kyle opened his, mumbled something like, "Wow, okay," and tossed it under the couch. Jake just said thanks, without making eye contact. I didn't even get to the end of the bag before it happened. Aunt Caroline opened hers. It was a scarf. Not expensive, but handwoven from this little store in Vermont. She read the note and then said it. "You always try so hard, you fool." And she laughed. Not a chuckle. Full laugh. Like I had just fallen down a flight of stairs. And then it spread. Like this inside joke they all understood. My mom tried to hide it, but she was smiling. My dad actually said, "She's not wrong." The worst part was, none of them thought they were being mean. To them, I was just playing my role. Ethan, the tryhard. The outsider. The desperate idiot who still believed that if you just give enough, maybe you get let in. I didn't argue. I just nodded. Picked the gifts up one by one and stuffed them back in the bag. And then I said it. It's strange that I'm the only one who came with something. I didn't wait for a response. Walked straight out the front door. Got in my car. Drove home in silence. The roads were empty. The kind of cold where the windows fog from your own breath. Back at my apartment, I dumped the bag on the floor and ordered Chinese food. Sat in the dark watching Die Hard and thought about every single thing I'd done wrong. Thinking maybe if I hadn't brought the gifts, maybe if I had just shown up late and left early like everyone else, maybe I'd have been fine. Half an hour later, my phone lit up like Times Square. My mom. My sister. My aunt. Even Jake. Saying it was a joke. Saying I was being dramatic. Saying to come back, just for a bit, just for the food. They were worried. They didn't mean it. It's Christmas, Ethan. I turned the phone off. That night something shifted. Something quiet, but solid. I realized they weren't my people. Not really. Blood and names didn't make us family. Not when they saw kindness as weakness. Effort as comedy. That was the night I stopped trying to be one of them. I didn't know it yet, but I just started the countdown. 1 year from then, everything would be different. They thought I was a fool. I'd show them exactly what kind of fool I could be. 3 months after Christmas, I closed on a house. Not an apartment. Not a condo. A house. Mine. 2 stories, with a wide front porch and a backyard that stretched all the way to a line of trees. Cypress Ridge was 40 minutes out from my parents' place, which was just enough distance to make drop-ins inconvenient and visits optional. The neighborhood was quiet. People walked their dogs, waved when they passed. No one asked too many questions. I didn't tell anyone I'd been saving for years. That I'd been working overtime, skipping vacations, skipping birthdays, turning down nights out. They didn't ask, anyway. I just posted a single photo to Instagram of the keys in my hand and the front door behind me. The caption just said, "Build something for myself." The comment section blew up. My mom posted a heart emoji. My sister asked if I was still coming to her graduation. Aunt Caroline wrote, "Wow, look who's fancy now," and slapped a winking emoji on it. They still didn't get it. They assumed I'd invite them over. That I'd throw some big housewarming party. That we'd laugh about the Christmas thing, maybe even open that damn bag again. They didn't realize I wasn't playing along anymore. Instead, I invited exactly one person, Jenna. Jenna and I had been seeing each other quietly. She worked at a bookstore downtown. We met the week after Christmas when I went in to return a gift no one claimed. She saw me holding the receipt and said, "Don't return it. Just give it to someone who actually deserves a gift." We talked for an hour. I left with her number and a book I didn't need. By April, she was spending more nights at the house than not. By May, she had her own key. She asked me once why I never mentioned my family. I told her they never asked about me, so I returned the favor. But the silence didn't last. My mom called one Sunday, saying they were planning a family thing for Father's Day and that it'd be a good time to see the new place. I told her I was busy. She said I could at least make time for my dad. I reminded her my dad hadn't spoken a word to me since Christmas unless it was to complain that I'd overreacted. She hung up. A week later, my sister posted a TikTok about people who think buying a house makes them better than everyone else. She didn't tag me, but she didn't have to. Then came the emails. The calls from Aunt Caroline. Snide comments about how I was acting too good now. How family doesn't give up on family. How I should remember where I came from. I remembered. I remembered sitting in that living room, holding a bag of unopened gifts while they laughed. I remembered being called a fool for caring. So I did what fools do. I started building a life without them. And for the first time in years, it started to feel like maybe I wasn't the fool after all. But they weren't done. Not yet. And when they came knocking, they didn't bring peace. They brought something else. It was a Saturday morning in July when the knock came. Not the kind of knock you get from neighbors dropping off cookies or some kid asking you to sign a petition. This was heavy. Repetitive. Like whoever was on the other side wasn't planning to leave until I opened up. Jenna was still in bed. I opened the door barefoot, coffee mug in hand. It was my parents. No call. No warning. Just standing there like they owned the sidewalk. My mom smiled too quickly. My dad stood with his hands in his pockets like he was just waiting to be let in. Behind them, parked halfway into my lawn, was my dad's ancient truck with Aunt Caroline in the passenger seat. I didn't invite them in. My mom started with something like, "We were in the area, even though Cypress Ridge isn't on the way to anywhere." Then she went into this whole speech about how family has disagreements, but we're stronger together. That my house looked nice enough, but it felt wrong that I'd moved without involving them. She said Jenna's car in the driveway made it seem like someone else was being treated like family. That's when I realized why they were really here. They thought I'd built something without them. And that scared them more than anything. Not because they missed me, but because for the first time, they weren't in control. My dad finally spoke. Asked if I planned to move them in. Said they were getting older, and that a big house like mine had plenty of space. Even threw in a joke about finally having a reason to get out of their dump. I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because they actually believed it. I said no. Just one word. No. My mom's smile dropped. My dad started listing reasons. How much they'd done for me. How it was only right. How my sister could take the guest room and he could build a shed out back for his tools. I shut the door. 2 minutes later, Aunt Caroline started banging on it. Full fists, yelling my name, calling me ungrateful, selfish, disrespectful. I stood there in the hallway, not moving, letting her voice echo through the door like it belonged to someone trying to get into a place they never helped build. Eventually they left. But not before slipping a folded note under the door. It said, "Blood is blood. You can't just replace us." Jenna found it and tossed it without asking. That night I told her everything. Christmas. The gifts. The names. The laughter. The plan I didn't even realize I'd started forming the moment I walked out that front door. She didn't say much. Just listened. Then she asked, "What are you going to do?" I told her I was done playing nice. They called me a fool. They tried to guilt me into giving up the one thing I built for myself. Now they were going to see just how far I was willing to go to keep it. The next move was mine. And I was going to make it count. I should have changed the locks on the gate the day I bought the house. After what happened on my front porch, I thought maybe they'd back off. They didn't. I underestimated how far people will go when they feel their control slipping. I thought keeping quiet was strength. That distance would do the work for me. I was wrong. It started when my sister posted a video of a moving truck outside my parents' house. Caption: Step 1. No details. Just enough for the message to land. I didn't reply. But I knew. A few days later, Jenna called me at work. She sounded off. "There's someone in the backyard," she said. I left work early. Drove home like I was chasing a fire. Pulled into the driveway and saw them. All of them. My dad, Mom, and Caroline, Kyle, Jake, even my sister, now playing the victim, sitting on the edge of my patio furniture like she was waiting for an apology that never came. They didn't even look guilty. My dad had the grill open. My mom was unpacking groceries into my fridge again. Kyle brought his own cooler and was cracking beers. Jake had his feet up on my table like it was his housewarming. I didn't say anything at first. I just stared. My dad grinned like this was all normal. "Told you we'd warm this place up a bit." I asked how they got in. My mom said they just helped themselves. My sister chimed in that my gate wasn't even locked. Like that made it okay. I told them to leave. They said I was overreacting. My aunt said, "Ethan, stop pretending like you're some king now. It's a house, not a castle." I told her the difference is, you don't invade someone's house. Jake laughed. "You gonna call the cops on your own family?" Kyle said, "You think this is just yours now? You forget who raised you." I lost it. I walked over to Jake, told him if he put his boots on my table again, I'd break his toes. He stood up. Taller than me, broader. But I didn't move. He called me a spoiled little rich boy. Said I thought I was too good for the rest of us now. He shoved me. I didn't think. I just hit him. Hard. Kyle grabbed me from the side. My dad tried to pull him off. Jenna had just walked out, and she screamed. Someone knocked over the grill. My mom was yelling. And Caroline was on the phone with someone. I still don't know if it was 911 or just gossiping. It was chaos. Chairs tipped, glass broke, someone fell into the garden bed Jenna just planted. My sister tried to slap me. I pushed her away. It was ugly. It felt inevitable. When the cops pulled up, everything froze. I was standing there, breathing like I'd just run 5 miles, hands bleeding. Jake had a cut on his lip. Kyle was swearing. Aunt Caroline was crying and waving her hands around like she was auditioning for a soap opera. The cops didn't arrest anyone. But they gave me the choice. "You want to press charges, sir?" I said no. Not yet. But I wanted something on record. I wanted it documented. I wanted them to know I wasn't bluffing anymore. They made my family leave. Told them if they came back without an invitation, they'd be trespassing. Simple. Legal. That night, I sat on the back steps. Jenna didn't say anything for a while. Then she handed me a beer and said, "So what now?" I told her the truth. Now we make it official. The next morning, I called a lawyer. Got a restraining order started. Changed the locks on the gate. Installed cameras. Sent out a message to all of them in one group chat. "You step on this property again, it won't end with a warning." Aunt Caroline replied with 3 paragraphs about how I was sick, how Jenna was the one turning me against them, how I was abandoning the people who built me. I blocked her. Then I changed my number. It was quiet for a few days. Too quiet. The kind of quiet you know doesn't last. It took them less than 2 weeks to break the silence. After the backyard incident, I did everything right. Lawyered up, filed the paperwork, secured the property. The restraining orders were in place, cameras were installed, motion detectors, smart locks. I even added a reinforced fence along the back line of the yard where they dragged in their pathetic family barbecue ambush. And for a while, it was quiet. Then it started. It began with the smallest things, things you could almost explain away. The gate swinging open despite the new padlock. The garage door creaking in the middle of the night when we hadn't touched it in days. A faint smell of cigarette smoke near the tool shed, even though either of us smoked. Jenna kept asking if I was sure I locked everything. I was. I double-checked everything now. Paranoia wasn't a hobby anymore. It was routine. Then came the thumps. 3 spaced out. Always from behind a wall. First in the kitchen. Then the upstairs hallway. Then the guest room. always when Jenna wasn't around. At first, I thought maybe it was pipes. Old house, creaking wood. Normal stuff. But I knew it wasn't normal when I found the first note. It was in my closet, taped to the back wall, behind the winter coats. I don't even use that section. It just said, "This place isn't yours." That night, Jenna didn't sleep. I stayed up watching the monitors, refreshing the feed every hour. Nothing. No movement, no figures, no vehicles outside. But someone had been inside the house. Then, 2 days later, she found the second note. This one was worse. "You can change the locks, not your blood." It was slipped inside the dryer, tucked inside a folded t-shirt. A shirt I hadn't worn in months. Whoever did it hadn't rushed. They took their time. They walked through the house like they lived there. I called the cops. They came, walked around, took my statement, made noises about filing a report. Said there were no signs of forced entry. Told me maybe it was some friend playing a prank. I asked them if most friends leave threats in someone's underwear drawer. They didn't answer. I stopped leaving the house alone. I started checking the cameras every hour. I put a wedge under every door, a sensor on every window. But it didn't stop. It escalated. A light bulb exploded in the basement, while I was down there. Shattered inches from my feet. The next night, I heard footsteps in the attic. Loud, slow. Like someone wasn't even trying to hide anymore. I went up there with the bat. Nothing. But the hatch was open. I never leave it open. Then I noticed something even worse. The wall panels in the guest room had been shifted, by hand. Like someone had unscrewed them, moved something, then put them back. I pulled them off one by one. Inside the insulation, wrapped in old plastic, I found the third note. "Still think this life is yours to live?" There was a photo taped to the back. One of me and Jenna, from a distance, sitting on the back porch. Taken days ago. Someone had been watching us. That's when I knew this wasn't a prank. It wasn't about guilt anymore. This was about control. Psychological warfare. They were trying to reclaim a space they never owned by convincing me I didn't belong in it either. And the worst part? It was working. I started dreaming in loops. Waking up at 2:33 a.m. every night like clockwork. My skin would crawl just walking from room to room. I started talking less. Eating less. Jenna kept trying to pull me back. Weekend trips, date nights, game nights. But my head was in the walls, the doors, the windows, the crawl space. They'd infected the house. And the one thing that scared me more than losing it was how far I was willing to go to take it back. They wanted a response. They were about to get one. I didn't sleep for 3 nights after finding that photo. I kept thinking about how close someone had to be to take it. The angle, the focus, it wasn't from the street. It was from the woods behind the fence. My woods. That photo wasn't a warning. It was a message. They weren't just watching. They were inside the edges of my life. Close enough to hear the music we played, close enough to hear our laughter. So I stopped laughing. I pulled every camera down and replaced them with new ones, hidden, smarter, with infrared. I bought a drone. Started flying it around the property at random intervals. I created a new private cloud server just for footage. And then I waited. It took 5 days. At 3:17 a.m. on a Thursday, I caught someone near the shed. They weren't wearing a mask. I recognized them instantly. Kyle. He was holding a small container. It looked like gasoline. I didn't call the cops. I watched him approach the side of the house, crouch near the wood panels. Then he turned, looked directly into one of the old cameras, one I hadn't used in weeks, and smiled. That's when I realized the camera wasn't for surveillance. It was bait. He poured the liquid but never lit it. He just stood up and walked away. That was the moment I understood. They weren't going to stop because this wasn't about making peace. It was about control. They didn't want me back. They wanted to own a piece of me, forever. Even if it meant destroying everything I'd built just to prove I couldn't build without them. So I made my final move. I sold the house. Didn't tell Jenna at first. She was angry when I brought it up, furious. Said we were giving up. But it wasn't giving up. It was removal. Erasure. Salt earth level cleansing. We packed up within a week. Quietly. No announcement. I took a job offer across the country. Jenna had family in Oregon. It worked. It was fast, almost surgical. I wanted no time for second thoughts. We left the house just as the first leaves began to turn. Before we left, I left something behind. Inside the same guest room wall where I found the third note, I put a flash drive. It contained everything: photos, video files, voice memos, the lawyer letters, the restraining orders, the timeline of every intrusion. Everything I'd collected. With one single message attached. If you want to haunt something, haunt this. Then I sealed it up. The new owners were a quiet retired couple. No social media. No drama. I liked them instantly. We drove across 5 states in 3 days. I didn't tell my family. I changed my number again. Deleted every old contact. New email. New everything. It wasn't revenge. It was freedom. But the irony is, the moment I stopped trying to punish them was the moment they came crawling back. Weeks after we moved in, I got a letter forwarded from my old lawyer. No return address, but the handwriting was my mom's. It said, "We've said enough. Just let us know you're okay." I didn't respond. That was 6 months ago. Now I live in a house surrounded by pine trees and fog. Jenna runs a tiny local bookshop. I work remote. I drink my coffee without checking the cameras. I don't hear knocks in the walls. I don't find notes in hidden places. And if I ever do, I won't stay. Because I finally learned, family doesn't mean staying. Sometimes it means walking away so far they can't even find the road back. It had been 6 months since Jenna and I moved to Oregon. Life was peaceful, quiet mornings with coffee on the porch, evenings filled with laughter, and no more shadows lurking in the corners. I had finally found the tranquility I longed for. Then, one morning, a letter arrived. No return address, just my name written in familiar handwriting. I hesitated before opening it, a knot forming in my stomach. Inside was a single sheet of paper. "Ethan, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. But I hope one day you'll find it in your heart to let go of the past. Mom." I stared at the words, emotions swirling. Was this genuine remorse or another attempt to pull me back into their web? Over the next few weeks, more letters came. One from my sister, filled with apologies and memories of our childhood. Another from Aunt Caroline, surprisingly void of sarcasm, expressing regret for her past behavior. I didn't respond. Then, a package arrived. Inside was a photo album titled Family Moments. Flipping through it, I saw pictures of birthdays, holidays, and vacations. Moments I had long buried. Tucked at the back was a note. "We miss you. Please come home for Christmas." I felt a pang of longing but also a surge of caution. Could I trust them? Or was this another manipulation? Jenna noticed my turmoil. "You don't have to decide now," she said. "Take your time." I nodded, knowing that the decision would not be easy. The past had left scars, but perhaps, just perhaps, there was a path to healing. Dealing with manipulative family members is challenging. It's essential to set boundaries and prioritize your well-being. Sometimes, distancing yourself is the healthiest choice.